Okay, so I'm going to go through the test that we had yesterday, and I'm trying doing this through sharing my screen so that you can see the Google form test the same way you would have seen it. Now, the first thing we had to do was type in a name, so I suppose I will type in my name. And we can see here that you can attach your rough work. Now it is on the first screen, but you can always come back to it. And when you've taken a photograph of your rough work, you'd be able to upload it, put it on your drive, or whatever way you needed to do there to attach your rough work. Okay, the first question here, you had to select multiple answers depending on whether it was part 1 to 5. And the question is, on which axis do the following points lie? Now remember, when we're on the x-axis, we've got different x values, but the y values are always 0. So anything with 0 in the second place is going to be on the x-axis. So here we go. This one is, number 1 is on the x-axis. Number 2 is on the x-axis, number 3 is not, number 4 is not, but number 5 is on the x-axis. And part 2, we've already done. Part 3, so when we're on the y-axis, the x value is 0. And so number 3 is on the y-axis, and number 4 is on the y-axis, and number 5 is also on the y-axis. This is the origin, which is on both the x-axis and the y-axis. Now, this graph displays which point, so you have to identify the coordinates. We look at the x value first, which is -5, and then the y value, which is 2. So -5, 2 was the correct answer here. Then we had several points here, and we were asked to find the distance from A to B. So those two little lines here meant the distance formula. And I would be expecting that this would show up in your rough work, that you'd write down the distance formula, x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 all squared, which I can't show you at the moment, but hopefully you're all able to do this. I'll take a photograph of it at the end of my own rough work and show that. So let me just check. I didn't put numbers on these questions. 1, 2, 3. So this was question 3. Question 3, we were using the point A as our x1, y1, and our point B as our x2, y2. And when we filled into the distance formula, we got 8 minus 3 all squared plus 2 minus 5 all squared. And it's perfectly fine to type that into your calculator in one go if you like, or to do it in multiple steps. So we've 25 plus 9, the square root of 34. Okay, and you could change that to a decimal, to 2 decimal places. So I do need my calculator. So I wonder if I can go between sharing and not sharing. The square root of 34 is 5.83 to 2 decimal places. So let's see, if I stop sharing or pause sharing, then I can turn on my video. And this is the solution to question 3. Okay, so hopefully that works okay. Now I can start sharing again. Sorry guys, I'm just getting used to this way of doing it, so hopefully it works. Now, question 4, the same idea. This time we're using A, which is 3, 5 as our x1, y1, and C, which is 2 minus 2 as our x2, y2. And when we find the distance from A to C, that's the square root of 2 minus 3 all squared plus minus 2 minus 5 all squared. And that's the square root of 1 plus 49, which is the square root of 50. But again, we need to put that to 2 decimal places. And that will be 7.07. 7.07. So again, Let me type in my answer to this one. This one was 5.83. And this one was 7.07. So if I stop sharing for a second, you can see here is question 4. Label your points, fill them into the formula up here, and use your calculator to do the rest. Okay, question 5. Again, we're asked to find the distance between 2 points. We're looking for the distance between A and D. So A is still my x1, y1. D is the point -4, 3 as my x2, y2. So the distance from A to D is the square root of -4 minus 3 all squared plus 3 minus 5 all squared. And you can use your calculator in one go or do it in steps. That's 49 plus 4. Let me just double check that. It's the square root of 49 plus 4, which is the square root of 53. And that simplifies to 7.28. 7.28 was the answer here. So I would be looking for your rough work for these questions. Now, if you got the answer correct, I pause it? No, resume share. So if you got the answer correct, and I don't see your rough work, I will give you the benefit of the doubt and I'll give you full marks for it. But if you got it wrong, if I don't see rough work, it's very hard for me to give you attempt marks, and I would like to give you attempt marks with these types of questions. Okay, so if you don't have enough time to see these, just pause the video and you can take down any corrections that you need to then. Now, question 6 is the midpoint. So the midpoint formula is that we're getting the average of the x values and the average of the y values. And the 2 points that we're talking about were -3, 4, that's my x1, y1, and 3, 7, that's my x2, y2. And I fill into the formula, the midpoint is found by -3 plus 3 over 2 and 4 plus 7 over 2, which simplifies to 0, 5.5. 0, 5.5. So we do have a decimal answer here. Maybe you can see it in the corner of the screen. Let's stop the share there for a second. So midpoint formula, fill into the formula and use your calculator for each part individually if you need to. Okay, so it's only for those types of questions where you might need to get partial credits. This was the answer that I'd have been looking for you to show your rough work there. Now, use the space below to write your answers 1 to 3. So I did expect you to write all of the answers here. For part 1, which line has a slope of 3 over 2? So we're looking for a slope, a line that goes up 3 spaces every time it goes over 2 spaces. This one goes up 2 spaces when it goes over 3, so it's not that one. This one goes up 3 spaces over 2. This one goes up 4 spaces over 2. So this is my answer. Part 1, B has a slope of 3 over 2. Part 2, what is the slope of the line A? So it's rise over run, 2 spaces over, divided by 3 spaces. So you can just write it like that. If you wrote it as 2 divided by 3, that's good as well. Or if you wrote it as 0.666 recurring, I'd also have accepted that. Okay, but this would be the best way to write it. I know it's hard on computers because we can't maybe write fractions the way we're used to it. Just move that over out of the way. Then for part 3, what is the slope of the line C? And again, it's rise over run, so 4 over 2. but I would expect you to simplify that to 2 for full marks there. You can see this whole question here is worth 10 points. So there will be partial credit going depending on how you answered the question there. Now, why is the slope of this line negative? So any reasonable answer here to describe what's happening, the way I would suggest saying it is that the line goes downhill when looking at it from left to right. Or we could say the rise is going down as the line moves to the right. Anything like that. So any sort of mention of it going down rather than up, that it's sloping down rather than up. And we have our points here for why this line, the slope of this line is negative. Calculate the slope of the line through these 2 points. So let me just check which number question I'm on. This was question 6, question 7, question 8. So for question 9 now, question 9, we need to use the slope formula. So my slope formula is the difference between the y values divided by the difference between the x values. I wonder if you can see that on your screens or if it's too small. The 2 points that were given are A, which is -1, -2, that's our x1, y1, and B, 3, 0, that's our x2, y2. And we fill into the formula to get 0 minus a -2 is +2, divided by 3 minus a -1 is +1. So we've 2 over 4, which we would be expected to simplify to a half. Now, to show you the working out there, so you can see the workings out. Okay, so the answer here was a half. The slope of a line is 2/3. What is the slope of any line parallel? Parallel lines, same slopes. So also 2/3. It's the only correct solution there. The slope of a line Q is -3/4. What's the slope of a perpendicular line? So remember, there's 2 things to do. Opposite slope, turn it upside down and change the sign. So the slope should be positive. It's not any of the minus numbers. And rather than 3 over 4, it should be 4 over 3. So there's our answer there. Now, the last question involved some work. They asked us to write down the answers for the slope of the first line. So it's described here. And the first thing that we're going to do, we're looking for, I'm just going to call this last question, because I can't remember the numbers anymore. So we've got the line 2x minus 3y plus 1 equal to 0. And its slope is the x coefficient divided by the y coefficient and change the sign. Okay, so let me hold that up there. The x coefficient divided by the y coefficient. So the 2 divided by the -3 and change the sign. So the slope was 2/3. 2/3 is what I was looking for there for the first thing. And again, this is one where I would be looking for your rough work. So the first thing here, the slope, so for part 1, the slope is equal to 2/3. Part 2 then, what is the slope of any line perpendicular? So perpendicular slope, we turn it upside down and change the sign. And remember, I've said before, when I put a minus, I'm going to always put the minus on the top. So I turn it upside down, 3 over 2, and I change the sign. So it's -3 over 2 is what I'm looking for there, -3 over 2. So that's the answer here, -3. Oh, sorry, I haven't got it selected. -3 over 2. And the last part then, and I definitely needed to see rough work here, find the equation of the line. So I need my equation of the line formula, y minus y1 equals m by x minus x1. M is my perpendicular slope because I'm looking for the equation of a line through the point 4 minus 1, which is perpendicular to the given line. So my x1, y1 is my 4 minus 1, and my M is minus 3 over 2. That's where we're starting. We're going to fill into that formula and then adjust it. So I'm filling into the formula, and I have y minus a minus 1 is plus 1 equals minus 3 over 2 by x minus 4. I'll show it all at the end, but I'm showing it in this little window to start with. Then remember, multiply the y side by the bottom number and the x side by the top number. We've got 2 bracket y plus 1 equals minus 3 bracket x minus 4. Put that up. Multiply out your brackets. 2y plus 2 equals minus 3x plus 12, and bring everything to one side. 3x plus 2y plus 2 minus 12 equals 0, and add the like terms of the numbers to get this final answer. I'll stop sharing so you guys can see this. And that's how we do the final question there. Okay, so I'd be looking for you to type that in. 3x plus 2y minus 10 equal to 0. And I've told you that that's the default format I wanted it in, so I would expect you to remember that. But if you wrote it as y equals mx plus c, I'll give you full marks for that as well, so long as it's in one of those two formats. If it's just a mess with things all over the place, I won't be able to give you full marks for that. Okay, so those are all the answers to the questions. Do let me know if there was something you didn't understand, and I will go over anything that you need me to. Okay, thank you. And I think I just stop this now.